Have you ever wondered what the world would be like if the Industrial Revolution had started 1,000 years earlier? Rome, the empire that built roads, aqueducts, and grandiose monuments, had everything it needed to be the first industrialized society in history. But surprisingly, it never happened. Why was such an advanced empire, with brilliant engineers like Marcus Vitruvius and visionary inventors like Hero of Alexandria, unable to take this crucial step? What prevented Rome from creating steam-powered machines and revolutionizing production? In this video, we will reveal the hidden reasons that prevented this advancement, exploring economic, political, and technological decisions that changed the course of history. Stay until the end to understand why the Industrial Revolution was impossible in Rome and how it impacted the modern world. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you are already subscribed to our channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our videos full of historical curiosities about ancient Rome. And speaking of Rome, do you have any idea how Roman society was sustained without large steam engines? Come with me and I'll show you the starting point of this story. The agricultural base and pre-industrial society, Rome developed as an agricultural civilization that depended heavily on human labor. Owning land, especially land near the Tiber, was a source of prestige and wealth. Most of the population lived in the countryside, supporting themselves by planting cereals, vineyards, and olive trees. Although they had already developed water mills and basic mechanisms to transform grains into flour, there was still no interest in making this a mechanized production line. The cost-benefit did not seem to be worth it, since slave labor was abundant and cheap. With a stratified social structure, large landowners preferred to invest in more slave labor than in expensive machines, something far removed from a mechanical revolution. This is a crucial point in understanding why Rome did not require advances such as the steam engine. What if I told you that, at the same time, Rome was one of the most ingenious peoples of its time? Discover how they applied their ingenuity to dominate entire territories and cities. The power of Roman engineering, one of Rome's greatest virtues, was its ability to plan and build. Roads that connected the entire empire, long-lasting bridges and aqueducts, cities built according to detailed urban plans. All of this was part of the genius of engineers like Marcus Vitruvius. The great highlight was the aqueducts that brought clean water to arid regions, or those far from rivers. Vitruvius, with his meticulous observations, described the importance of calculating the exact slope and the use of sustainable arches to avoid wasting material. At the same time, these ingenious projects did not always translate into an interest in modernizing production. Technical creativity existed, but without strong economic demand, it rarely reached the level of an industrial revolution. Have you ever wondered how this type of engineering shaped the destiny of an empire? Leave your like now, so we can continue bringing you stories as impactful as this one. But there is one character in this story who can change everything: Hero of Alexandria. Have you ever imagined how his brilliant mind almost redefined the course of Rome? Reunion with Hero of Alexandria. Hero of Alexandria was a Greek-Egyptian inventor who lived during the period when the Roman Empire was in full expansion. Tall and with classical Greek features, he spent his days creating curious prototypes based on steam and pressure. Hero was the creator of the Aeolipile, an instrument that could be considered a rudimentary embryo of a steam engine. Although it was more of a scientific toy than a practical application, it showed the potential that steam could have as a driving force. However, Roman society did not see any use in something that could automate processes. Slaves were cheaper, and the money spent on technological research did not make sense for the Roman elite. Thus, the Aeolipile was restricted to the manuscripts of Vitruvius and a few curious individuals. And why, after all, did Rome not see value in technologies that saved time and effort? Let's understand the labor base that supported this empire. The slave labor force. The Roman Empire was largely fueled by slave labor. From prisoners of war to people in debt, labor was abundant and practically costless for the elite. In an economy that depended on the labor force, it was easier to acquire more people than to invest in machines. This scenario created a cycle. With many slaves available, there was no incentive to create equipment that could replace or optimize human labor. And, without this incentive, the innovative ideas of engineers and inventors were shelved. Unlike the circumstances that would lead to the Industrial Revolution in England centuries later, such as the lack of wood and the need to extract coal from flooded mines, Rome never experienced a context of energy urgency or labor shortage. Did you already know this intriguing detail about slave labor in Rome? Write in the comments what you think about it and share your ideas. Meanwhile, our favorite engineer continues his notes, envisioning a future that perhaps Rome was not ready to embrace. Let's find out how Vitruvius tried to transform his reality. Vitruvius and the art of construction. Vitruvius dedicated his works to understanding the harmony between architecture, functionality, and beauty. He described water-lifting mechanisms, notes on the resistance of materials, and even suggestions on how to improve ventilation in large buildings. During his travels, he observed how some regions of the empire lacked modern solutions, but was frustrated by bureaucracy and political interests that prioritized military expansion over technological innovations. Vitruvius' insistence on cataloguing every device he found, including the work of Hero of Alexandria, reveals a man ahead of his time. Even without ideal conditions, he understood that knowledge about steam and pressure could be revolutionary if someone was willing to invest in it. Centuries later, other engineers emerged with a similar mission, but in a very different scenario. From Rome, want to know how this influenced the future? Keep watching. A comparison with the future. Thomas Nilcome and Johnley. We now come to the story of Thomas Nilcome and Johnley, two inventors who around 1712 revolutionized mining by creating a steam-powered pumping machine. This invention solved the problem of flooded mines, something crucial in England, since coal extraction was a top priority. Unlike Rome, England faced a shortage of timber, forcing the increasing use of coal. This generated a demand for machines that could extract more coal efficiently. In this context, Nilcome and Johnley flourished, developing the atmospheric machine to pump water from the mines. If Rome had felt the same economic pressure or encountered energy problems, perhaps Hero's Aeolipile would have been improved. But the Roman reality was different, with no clear incentives to replace the abundance of slaves with steam-powered solutions. If you're enjoying this comparison between Rome and 18th century England, leave a like and subscribe to our channel, so we can continue to bring you more historical analyses like this. And after all, could the availability of coal alone explain the absence of an industrial revolution in Rome? Let's delve deeper into this point now. The lack of coal. On a large scale, Rome was aware that coal could be used as fuel, but the actual use of this resource was minimal and sporadic. What dominated daily life was wood and charcoal, easily found in forests and conquered regions. Since the empire extended across areas with abundant vegetation, there was no reason to delve into coal mining. On the contrary, diverting workers and resources to mining this material would be a risky step, without sufficient demand to justify it. In this way, the availability of wood and slaves combined to eliminate any chance of a transition to a more mechanized model of production. Even with Hero and Vitruvius mapping out possibilities, the empire simply did not need it at that time. How could such a vast and organized empire not invest in improvements that could further increase its grandeur? Come with me and I'll explain. Administration and the limits of a superstructure. It is important to remember that the Roman administration, although sophisticated, had very clear military and political priorities. Maintaining borders, collecting tributes, and ensuring internal peace consumed a large part of the state's resources. Unlike a nation that needs to innovate to survive energy challenges, Rome had a stable economy based on conquests and enslavement of peoples, which eliminated the need for more advanced research. With the succession of emperors and the constant tension of power struggles, long-term projects, such as the development of sophisticated machines, were put on the back burner. Even with exceptional engineers, there was a lack of someone to sponsor major technological leaps. Did this dynamic of priorities in Rome surprise you? Comment below with your opinion and share this video with those who love history. At this point, you must be wondering, so did Rome really leave nothing that could have been used later? Just wait until you see the legacy this civilization left behind. The legacy and technological prediscovery. Although it did not experience the Industrial Revolution, Rome left behind an invaluable set of engineering, architecture, and administration techniques that inspired later generations. Bridge structures, road construction, and urban legislation were for a long time references in Europe. Vitruvius and Hero had their writings preserved in part, which allowed Renaissance thinkers, centuries later, to review their notes, study the genius of these minds, and adapt old ideas to new contexts. In this sense, we can say that although there was no industrialization in antiquity, some pillars of mechanical and architectural knowledge were laid. When medieval Europe and later Renaissance Europe rediscovered these documents, the seeds were already there, just waiting for fertile soil. We have reached the end of our journey. So the ultimate question remains, what was missing for Rome to create its own industrial revolution? Why didn't Rome industrialize? In short, Rome had ingenuity, techniques, brilliant minds like Hero and Vitruvius, and an organized empire. But its agricultural base, abundance of slave labor, and lack of energy demand prevented the nation from seeking solutions that would automate production. 18th century England, on the other hand, was experiencing a shortage of wood, desperately needed coal, and faced challenges that could only be solved with mechanical and scientific innovations. It was in this context that Thomas Nilcome and Johnley prospered, creating the first successful atmospheric engine. We can imagine that if Rome had faced similar pressures, history might have been different. But in the end, the circumstances of each era determined who would kickstart the age of steam engines. The Roman Empire followed a different path, leaving its legacy in roads, laws, and structures that we use in part to this day. What we learned here is that it's not enough to have brilliant minds and a few promising inventions. The economic and social context is essential for an idea to become a revolution. Rome preferred to expand its domain, conquer lands, and build on its solid agricultural structures, while 18th century England desperately needed innovations that would sustain the use of coal. If you enjoyed this trip through time and want more fascinating stories, subscribe to the channel, like, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video about ancient Rome and its great empire.